Hello everyone, here I have another project that I wanted to include as a bonus video. I'm going to go through the exact same process that I followed in the first video. For this project, the offsets for the headlands have already been created, and I've also created offsets for these roads, which are the yellow lines. So all that remains is to create the trajectories for the primary land units, then create the guidelines and adjust their angles so that they're evenly split, and then bring in the grids and determine an offset spacing, and then start tracing according to the grids. This video is going to mostly be just a time lapse because I think everything that was important to cover was covered under the first video. And with that said, thank you for watching. I'm going to go straight into it now. And so this is the patterning complete. All in all, it took me just about an hour and a half to create all of this, which is not too bad, to be honest, for patterning on this scale and with this complexity, although this landscape is not very complicated. When we factor in that we don't have any sophisticated CAD tools, I would say an hour and a half is not bad. Some things to note. The first is that I forgot to create a headland offset from this boundary here. Another thing that I should mention is that all of these roads normally would have headlands offsetted from them. In this case, I didn't do that, just so I could have more space to work with for example's sake, but in, I would say, 99% of cases, any roads or tracks or anything else really that needs to be avoided should have a headland offset around it. Another thing to talk about briefly is that when you have patterns moving from one paddock to another, like in the case of this area here, it is a good idea to always try to make it so that they flow one into another seamlessly. So that if, let's say, a tractor is riding down this alley, it's going to be able to seamlessly transition into the alley in the adjacent field without having to make complicated maneuvers. Now, I did not do a very good job here, and you can see how some of these rows do not align perfectly with one another. This is because I did not spend a lot of time making sure that the angle of my guideline is evenly split by the midpoint of this road. But if you want to create these kinds of seamless transitions between adjacent paddocks, this is how you would do it. You would make sure that the midpoint of any road or boundary or whatever it is that is separating the adjacent paddocks is going to be splitting the angle of your guideline perfectly. And this is going to ensure that the rows are going to flow one into another seamlessly. Here is another example of where I didn't do a really good job. Here we have an alley, and if somebody is riding down this alley in a tractor and tries to transition into the alley in the adjacent paddock, there is this row that is standing in the way. So if I had spent a little bit more time to make sure that these rows align perfectly, we would avoid this issue. Now, an argument could be made that if you have a guideline that is serving many paddocks like this, where they are adjacent to each other, then if you manage to get the seamless transition between rows from one paddock to another in 80 to 90% of the case, then you've probably done a good job. Because when you have a single guideline serving many paddocks, then it's a balancing act. Because if I grab this guideline now and I want to adjust it for this paddock, then obviously it's also going to adjust it for all other paddocks that are being serviced by it. So at some point you reach a place where you cannot adjust the guideline anymore, and you've kind of reached a sweet spot where it services all of the paddocks as good as it can. So maybe in this case, this single instance where the paddocks here do not align perfectly to each other is not such a big deal. Although I'm pretty sure that if I had spent more time, I would have gotten this perfectly, because I could have just taken the wing of the guideline on this side and adjust that instead of touching the wing on the right side that services all of these other paddocks. So in this case, it would have been a simple fix to just adjust the wing in this one paddock to get this angle perfectly split by the midpoint of the road. And so with that said, I hope that this bonus video has been informative and useful to you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next sessions.